Alright guys, I just wanted to show y'all my planned on build for Amon when he releases. We currently have the wrong action skill equipped. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be running neuromechanical for this build, but maybe that will change. I'll have to see. I'll have to find out. But starting off, we are in the onslaught skill tree. We're going to get melee critical strike chance. Now, I'm hoping this applies to all melee damage. Just melee damage. Hopefully this isn't like specifically like melee attacks getting critical hit chance. Hopefully this is just melee damage in general gets critical hit chance. But we'll see. We'll see how this actually plays out. If this doesn't really work out, the build isn't necessarily dead, but I would probably put these points somewhere else. Probably burning damage. Actually, probably heavy plate armor. I would probably put it into heavy plate armor. But anyways, going on, we have melee damage and skill damage. I think we would want that one. Combat damage and artillery damage. I don't know what combat damage is. Artillery is... I'm pretty sure that's going to be ordnance damage. And then this is going to be status effect. So we're going to put points into melee damage and skill damage. This makes us invincible for 6 seconds after activating the forging skill. So 1 point, very, very good. Amon gains super shield when dealing melee damage. We want 4 points into that. That is going to be great. And then after this is all we're going to put into the onslaught skill tree. Now it is on to the neuromechanical skill tree. So increases Amon's critical damage after dealing melee damage. This effect is doubled. I think that was the one that I wanted. Yeah, I'm gonna get this one. I don't know if this is actually going to be 5% bonus, like a 25% bonus critical hit damage and then doubled to 50%, because it says reload speed and then double duration. But I'm pretty sure it was just an issue between speed up. I think speed up and executioner were just like mixed up. Like executioner just got speed up's description for some reason. I'm not entirely sure. So I don't really know if this is worth it, but it sounds really good. More critical hit damage. And we have a 25% chance to critical hit with melee damage. I would think. I think that's how it works. And then we want the forging drone skill. When Amon activates the forging skill, it will spawn a tomahawk forging drone that will attack nearby enemies for a period of time, causing burning melee damage. So this will summon a drone that does melee damage and fire damage all in the same damage, right? If Tempering Pyre is already active, activating the forging seal will fully restore the duration of all active forging drones. So we get that one, 5 out of 5. Tempering Pyre now spawns an additional axe-smithing drone that deals frost melee damage. So now we get not only a fire melee drone, but now we get a frost melee drone. So that's really good. And then what do we want? Honestly, Oh, increases Amon's forging skill damage and detonation damage. That might be good. This one would be more damage. A part of me almost wants to get... Oh, wait, no, that would be in the Onslaught skill tree. Elemental damage. 3 stacks. Forging and detonation. So I'm thinking detonation might be his passive. Forging skill cooldown rate. We can put... Yeah, we can put the 4 extra points into here, and then that way we get some extra damage on both of our melee drones. Any elemental damage we deal. So then on top of that, when Amon activates his artillery, he will spawn a hammer forged drone that will attack nearby enemies for a period of time, dealing freezing melee damage. So we get that. Increases the damage and duration of forged drones. That sounds good. That sounds good. But what else do we got? What else do we got? I mean that, yeah. Yeah, I think we're going to do this one. Damage and duration. And then there's this one. Hammer forged drones can now deal artillery damage in addition to their original damage types, which is melee, and have a chance to trigger a detonation when damaging an enemy, causing area freezing damage. So, that sounds really good. So, keep in mind, we have bonuses to melee crit chance, right? And then we have all these things that summon drones that deal melee damage, fly around and deal melee damage. And as they're doing melee damage, because of the Onslaught skill tree, we are getting Overshield every single time one of those drones deals melee damage. Now, maybe this doesn't work. Amon gains a super shield when dealing melee damage. So maybe that refers back to Amon. So maybe Amon has to deal melee damage to get the super shield. So maybe this doesn't work with his drones. I don't know why it wouldn't work with his drones. There's still a lot to figure out with this game because it hasn't released yet. But assuming that anything related to Amon counts as Amon, you know, I don't know why it wouldn't give me super shield just because it's a drone dealing the melee damage and not specifically Amon, but maybe that's the way it works. Who knows? But the way this build is theory crafted is my drones are going around dealing melee damage, and then they're granting me super shield every time they do. To be completely honest, speccing into heavy plate armor might be a necessity. Max super shield capacity would be nice. That'd be plus 40%. But moving on. So we have all of that. We're invincible for 6 seconds after activating the forging skill. And then we get all that super shield. When Amon or his forged drones critically strike an enemy or create an explosion, increases the damage he deals. Detonation awards multiple stacks. So I think... Oh, there's this one too. When Amon activates the active skill, it will generate a sword forging drone. The drone will attack nearby enemies for a period of time, causing electric melee damage. So, That's kind of cool. That would be another way to deal melee damage. Yeah, okay. So we're going to get 5 out of 5. 3 out of 5. Okay. So we're going to get 5 out of 5 here and 3 out of 5 here. Honestly, the damage that our swordsmithing drone does isn't going to mean nearly as much as just being able to get a swordsmithing drone. It would be nice to be able to have enough points to get down to sharpen the tip. I would want that, but the problem is that then we would have to lose points in this skill tree, and then I would pretty much have to take points out of strongest defense. Honestly, I wish I could get heavy plate armor. It might be more beneficial to take skill points out of this. I mean, this is a lot of damage. This is actually a lot of damage. So maybe it would help to take 2 points out of this. We still want that extra sword drone. As long as we get the sword drone, that will do a lot for us already. And then with the extra points, we can go back into the onslaught skill tree and put a couple into here. So we have 16% max super shield capacity. And yeah. So with this, I mean, I want you to keep in mind, like, this is a survivability sort of deal. But I want you to keep in mind, like, when Amon or his forged drones critically strike an enemy or create an explosion, increases the damage he deals. Detonation awards multiple stacks. So, creates an explosion, they can do that now. Detonation rate, 25%. Right? So they can trigger a detonation when damaging an enemy. 25% detonation rate. So, a quarter of the time they're critically hitting, and then a quarter of the time they're also triggering detonations, and whenever they trigger detonations, they give us multiple stacks of this. And the thing that this does is it increases our damage dealt by 0.25% for every skill point. So this goes up to 1.25%, and we can get 5 stacks on a detonation. And then maximum number of layers is 30. So 30 times 1.25, that's about 37% extra damage dealt. And that's damage dealt. That's not just melee damage. That's gun damage. That's elemental damage. That's ordnance damage. That is just damage. Alright? So, Blast Furnace is super, super good. And we're probably going to be getting 30 stacks. And we're probably going to be keeping 30 stacks for quite a long time if we play our cards right. If not all the time, then quite often. I'm a little confused about, like, you know, we have, when Amon activates the forging skill, what is the forging skill? Because this is his action skill. Forge axe can be thrown and picked up from the ground to refine cooldown time. So that's the action skill. What's the forging skill? I don't really know what the forging skill is. But we can choose our augment now. Amon will now be equipped with a forged hammer with a choice of frost or shock. Enemies damaged by the forged hammer will be in a ready state for a period of time. When they die or are damaged by the forging skill, they will explode, causing damage to nearby enemies. Frozen hammer, electric hammer. So instead of fire and frost, we get frost and shock, which is good. It probably does more damage too. Hold F to throw your twin forged hammers, dealing freezing melee damage to nearby enemies on impact and ricocheting up to 3 times between nearby enemies. If no ricochet target is found, the hammers deal additional damage before self-destructing. Each time a detonation is triggered, an additional ricochet occurs. So that honestly sounds awesome. That sounds like a capstone that I can get into. Amon will now be equipped with a forged sword with a choice of fire or electric. When enabled, all charges will be consumed to fire the forged sword barrage. Enemies damaged by the forged sword will be put into a ready state for a period of time. When they die or are damaged by the forging skill, they will detonate and cause damage to the target, but will not harm nearby enemies. Barrage of flaming swords, barrage of electric swords. 3 uses each. So 3 barrage, like 3 swords in a barrage. Honestly, that does sound good. I think I would want this augment with this capstone. that does sound good to me. This is probably the way I would spec into it. I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what the forging skill is. I don't really know how that works, admittedly. I'm a little confused as to what that means. But I don't think it's his action skill. It's a secondary skill, right? And I've heard that Neuromechanical's secondary skill is like on a really short cooldown. Or either that or his action skill itself is on a really short cooldown. Which, I mean, we can get this pretty often then. Because I think instead of active skill, it means to say action skill. This was translated from Japanese, so. Anyways, this is the build that I'm thinking of doing on Amon. The only issue I see with this build is that there isn't really any way to get health back. There probably is a way to get health back, actually. I think that was where I put these points. I went into Revenge, and then I put them here. Amon gains health restoration. Each time Amon takes or absorbs non-status damage, he gains a layer of resoluteness for a period of time, increasing this effect. Health regen plus 2%. So Amon gains health restoration. 2%. 2 points. 4% health restoration, and that's just passive, right? Health value recovery rate plus 10% for each layer of determination and courage. So each time he absorbs or takes non-status effect damage. So he can get up to 200% bonus, which would be 12% health regen. That sounds fantastic to me. Like, this sounds like a great survivability skill. And you got to keep in mind, too, we're going to be invincible. So, all for the 6-second duration of this, I believe we should be absorbing damage and getting stacks of health regen. And then we'll have super shield when we're not invincible. And we're going to be taking damage, but it's going to be hitting our super shield. And that's going to be giving us health regen. So I'm thinking that this build is going to be very survivable. Now, there's a few extra skills that I would like to put into this. Like, I would like to get heavy plate armor. I would like to be able to spec a little further down and make it so my forged drones have a chance to critically strike. Because that would be an extra 20% critical hit chance if I'm looking at this correctly. So 20% critical hit chance from that skill, and then 25 critical hit chance, 25% critical hit chance from this one. That's 45% critical hit chance. That sounds really good. But to be completely honest, a part of me also thinks that I don't need quite that much critical hit chance. Like, it's good, but it's also just kind of whatever. So this is what I'm probably going to be trying to run. This is the build I'm going to try out first. Now, if some of this doesn't necessarily work out, this build might not actually be all that great. Like, if the critical hit chance doesn't actually apply to the drones for some reason, you know, that's a lot of damage loss right there. If the overshield isn't given to me from the melee damage that my drones deal, that kills the whole build. Really. Like, that honestly kills the whole build. So, something to keep in mind. You know, this is just theory crafting. But if it works out the way that I hope it does, the way that I think it will, this is definitely going to be the build that I will run. Probably won't be the most damage, but at the same time, it's very, very survivable, I think. It sounds very, very good for survivability. And to be completely honest, we do get a lot of damage out of it too. It's not like the damage isn't there. I'm excited to try this out, this build out. I think this build sounds really good. So, thank you for watching. Hope you have a good one. Hope you continue having good ones. And I hope to catch you on the next video, whenever that is. Not entirely sure when that is, but whenever it happens, it happens. Whenever it comes out, it comes out. I'm not too worried about it. So, I hope that you aren't either. But yeah, thank you for watching. Until next time, I'm going to have to catch you later. Take care.